Are you ready? He's ready.
Are you ready, Bambos? We're a half an hour early. We apologize to all of our religious viewers that we've come on a half an hour early.
And the atheists.
We apologize to you. We do know that you kind of eat dinner with us. You set your clocks to us. There is some people out there. I always say, as you know, we're Oprah to 10 people.
I only found out an hour ago that we're going to
I apologize. Naomi Mamiye had an appointment that she rescheduled for us, and we brought it forward a half an hour. So those people that are used to joining us will catch us in the middle and ask us what we did. Yeah. We're going to discuss quite an interesting subject, and I think it'll go a lot of different directions. But the theme of this is she had a mastectomy because 6 members of her family near to her all died of cancer. And so she was proactive in her life, and she said, I'm going to take proactive action. And I wanted to have that discussion with her around how it felt to say, make a decision that may be hard to make, but in her world, what made it so important. And then we'll go a lot of ways. She's been very successful. She's got, I think, a fun backstory. So we'll go a lot of different directions, but we're going to do that. Where, Mr. Demetrio?
On a wonderful chaos, Mr. Shaler.
Thank you. Bye. Hey.
It feels like Friday.
It does. I have the same feeling. I'm like, especially because Ronnie and I said we're gonna go for a walk right after the show.
Ah, nice.
So it does feel like a Friday for me.
Or you're definitely going to go for a walk after the weekend, right? Oh, on the weekend.
Yeah, I've got the weekend. For those that don't know, I'm doing a 7-day walk up the western coast of the Netherlands. 7 days, 140 kilometers. That's me.
Yeah.
We'll be doing shows from abroad, whatever that means in the Netherlands.
I'm even going to join you for one of those days.
Yes. And then I have the coast. Everyone's trying to tell me that I'll always find food along the coast, but I'm bringing powders and a mixer so that I can always eat something that isn't fried. How pathetic is that?
Very. I'll bring food on Monday. Don't worry.
Thank you. So I found Naomi. I want to make sure because I always screw all the names. No, that's the family name, Bambos. That's the family name.
Naomi Mamiye.
Naomi. Now you see why I don't let Bambos touch the mouse.
It's because it's too early.
Have you got it out of your system now?
Yes. We're gonna do that one.
No, you're gonna. It's like I think it's like a Pavlov dog now. Like you ring the bell, it's almost like I've got that in my system.
Yeah.
But so I found Naomi's story on a lot of these Facebook groups, which I'll dig into. And when I read her story, everyone tries to position themselves a little bit as an authority in some ways, right? And Naomi, what I found was so beautiful, she just sort of she kind of let her story out there. She just wrote it like, I mean, I'm just going to read a bit of this, right? So she's basically saying, are you interested in having me as a guest? Now, if you were to, I'm going to read how she presented herself, and I'm laughing because I'm thinking this is exactly the person I'd want to have, but I can't say that other people would be dying to have this individual on their show. So, having a childhood full of tragedies, Naomi got married young just to have a home. She did not have parents to guide her, and didn't have her back. Because of the foolishness of youth, years later, she found herself divorced with 4 kids, no income or family to lean on. Naomi had to turn her creativity to start a business. People laughed when she proposed to start the Naomi Mamiye design firm. Instead of letting it bring her down, she used it as fuel to propel herself forward and prove them wrong. She pushed herself hard to get to the top of the design world. She did her first few projects free of charge to get her name out with good reputation. One referral came after the next, and she never had to advertise. Now, that was really the story that she kind of put out there. And I thought, wow, like even to say I married to get out of the house.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people do that, but you'd almost never feel comfortable enough just to say that. It's the truth, but
people owning it.
People owning it.
Yeah.
And that I found that really beautiful. And then she, because in our discussion of getting her on the show, I said, I'd like to discuss something that you had to, overcome. And then she said, well, 6 of my closest family members all died of cancer. And then she decided to take this proactive step. And I said, wow, I'd really like to dig into that with you. So that's how we got there.
Yeah.
And then a half an hour ago, she called me and said, the show's time doesn't work for me. And then I heard her, and I don't know, but she sounds exactly like all my Jewish relatives from Boston. So I don't know if she's one of my Jewish relatives from Boston, but she's a spitting image of one of them. So I've got to see if she's got the Jewish roots in her, because that voice and that charisma is
I
only,
think she does.
It's only Jewish in my family. So I'll figure that out. But we're going to bring her on right now. So you can answer the first question. Are you a practicing Jew?
Yes, I am. Orthodox one.
You're Orthodox?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
yes,
I love it.
Yes. This is a wig.
I can see now that you say it. It's too perfect.
Yeah. There you go. No frizz. Yeah, exactly.
But isn't that funny? Because my dad was Jewish and my mom was Catholic. So I had the Catholic part of the family, which was always reserved and always like morally trying to tell me I was bad for masturbating. And then I had the Jewish part of the family, which that would be the first question they'd ask me.
Oh my God.
It's true.
Oh my God, that's funny.
How did they know you were masturbating?
Well, I mean, you're 16 years old. They make the assumption, Bambos. It's that. But you know what I'm saying, or is that foreign to you?
Yeah. No, that's a little. I don't know if my family would ask anybody that. But the gene that I have, this BRCA1 gene that I have, is mostly seen in the Jewish community, because a long time ago in Europe, when they were all there, they all married each other. So this BRCA1, so when I decided to get a part of this study that I joined, I saw an ad in the New York magazine, and it was it said, we're doing a Jewish Ashkenazi study on the BRCA1 gene. We're looking for people to volunteer. And at that point, I mean, so many people in my family have died of cancer. So I thought, there's something more to this. It's not just random, everybody in the family. There must be something genetic going on over here. So I went down and I schlepped my sister with me, and it happens to be, so we both have it. It's also this preventative mastectomy that we both did. It's also Angelina Jolie also had that same gene. Her mother is also an Ashkenaz Jew. So it's just clustered.
You got the test done with your sister, and then you agreed together to basically do vasectomies.
Oh no, not together. I said first I was 26 years old.
Okay.
And when I found out I had this gene, and I was like, no, I want to breastfeed my kids. I'm like, this is like too much. I'm too young. I can't. You think about cancer, you think like older people,
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I have plenty of time for this. Now, the paperwork suggested that I got from them that I go for a mammogram every 6 months. And, in the beginning, I listened. I was like, okay, every 6 months I went for the mammogram. Then slowly it became a year. Then I got even lazier, busier, kids, family, this, that. And then it slowly became less and less often. And the last time I went to supposed to go once a year to the oncologist to check you, and he said oh, I was probably 40 years old. It was probably 6 years ago. So they said, so he said, I just had a 19-year-old die on me. He was telling me, he's like, you have to do this. And I was like, my kids are already older. Okay. And actually, because Angelina Jolie did it already. It's already like out in the open. It was already like it became like a normal thing that people did it for preventive, reasons.
Wow.
20 years ago, it wasn't so common, Um, so I actually did it, and I didn't want anybody's sympathy. I told nobody. I waited for my kids to all be in camp. Nobody was around. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't even tell my sister I was doing it. And we both have one mutual friend that we're very close with.
Mm.
And she was going through a hard time. And I told her, I was like, she had to go through a surgery. And I said, a few years ago I had this surgery, and you get over, it's hard in the beginning, it's painful. Over time, everything heals, and life goes back to normal. And she's like, what? She's like, your sister also did it. I'm like, what? I had no idea that my sister, I kept it a secret from everybody, and so does she. And we both had it done like around the
Same
same time.
genes.
It's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, same way of thinking.
But I mean, wouldn't you have noticed it if you'd seen one? So what have you done?
No. So they do right away reconstructive. In the same operation, it's 5 hours. They remove everything from inside, and then they put plastic implants in as a replacement. You can't.
Oh, wow.
You can't tell. You can't
wow.
tell. So
I thought it was like first I thought there needed to be space or time between those 2 points, but there is no time.
You could have it's your call, I think.
Mm.
I mean, he gave me that option, and I was like, yeah, why would I want to go through surgery twice? Let's just get this over and done with and move on. But many people don't realize that it's a lot of cancers are, it's very interesting that I did so many preventative things just to to survive. So my grandmother and her sisters and her great grandmother, they all died of breast cancer. So I got the BRCA1 gene from them.
Yeah.
But my mother died of melanoma, skin cancer. So, and my mother, one day she noticed like a black mole on her back was getting bigger and bigger, and like you don't really notice it because it's
On your back.
on your back. So I think maybe my father mentioned somebody mentioned it, and she ended up dying of melanoma at the age of 36, and I was 12 years old. And so as a preventative measure also, I had moles all over the place. I had 10 of them removed also. It's just I feel like it's that instinct for survival, and also it's also like the mama bear protecting her cubs. You have 4 little kids, and I didn't want them to go through what I went through. I mean, after my mother died, my life like turned into like disaster from like a beautiful upper class family. Everything was like pitch perfect, and then it went to having like no real home. My father ended up getting remarried. My stepmother didn't want me. I went to live with one set of grandparents. One of them got sick with cancer. I moved to the other set of grandparents. Then one of them got sick with cancer. It was just such hardship all those teenage years, and I didn't want my kids to go through the same thing, and
Wow.
I ended up getting married at 19 because I wanted a home. I was like all over the place, a little here, a little there. There was no stable place, so I just I jumped to get married just to have that stability. And when you're 19 and there's nobody watching your back, and you're doing things out of
Naomi,
desperation.
Naomi, I need to slow you down a bit.
Wow.
We've pretty much went on a really intense journey in 14 minutes.
Yeah, like I'm on a roller coaster right now. I'm like,
I'm
whoa.
trying to keep up with you a little bit, and I want to slow this down in a way that Andy found you because you shared a post. What prompted you to write this post? Like, why was that important for you?
Okay, so a lot of people assume that the cancer in the family is just like a fluke. They don't even they don't even attest if it's, if it's hereditary, if it's in their, if it's in their, a lot of people never met their great grandparents, don't even know their family history or family background, so it's, if it's available to you now, there's, I did that,
23andMe?
I did the 23andMe, and it was like, oh, you have the BRCA1 gene, like things you need to be careful. Oh, like, oh, yeah, thanks, I know. But, like, it's so easy nowadays to know what's in your family history that was hidden and not, aware of you, what you come from, where,
Did you find any relatives you didn't know about?
No, I did not.
We have a guest on tomorrow who is basically the sperm donor gave the same sperm to 23 people, which were not known, and it was a well-known person in her state. So now she did the 23andMe, and then no one at that time knew that we'd have this technology. So now she's sort of the guy was exposed, and now she's got all these people that she didn't know. So that's possible as well.
I read that once in a while. I go back and I check. I'm like, no new relatives. But it's so easy nowadays. So you could actually be ahead of the game. So let's say I still need to. This BRCA1 gene is a breast cancer, ovarian cancer gene. It's both. I didn't remove my ovaries yet. I know I have to. I know I know I'm going to, but I'm just not in the right right place yet. But I'm aware to be extra careful. And now that I go for my sonogram to check the ultrasound, it's important to be on top of things.
Yeah.
And when you're not aware, so many people, like you read in the paper, oh, he had stage 4, something, and like, like, where were, stage 4, where, why didn't you know that, a lot of these things you could have known before if you would have been on top, if you would have gone through your checkup once a year,
I went to get my checkup yesterday. I went to go get my checkup yesterday, and they took my blood and did the whole thing. And I asked, because I'm now 50, and I said to the doctor, "Isn't it time for me to do my colonoscopy thing?" Right? And he said, "Actually, in the Netherlands, like, you aren't allowed to do it by kind of the health system here until you're 55. So basically, there's no in the US, these things are often quite basic. You just do it. But here they have certain protocols of what you can and can't do, or what's funded by the government or the health system. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
But my message usually out. I usually don't even discuss this mastectomy. Usually when I do podcasts, it's usually I focus on making something of yourself after a lot of hardship.
Yeah.
Like, so I got married to the wrong person, and I ended up with 4 kids, and then I ended up divorced. And then I didn't have any of this family to help me or to lean on or to help give me a break, babysit for a few minutes, or give me a breather, or financial. There was nobody to lean on at all. No, both sets of grandparents and both parents all not alive. So some people, like, they go through hard times and they just let it bring them down, and that's it. And they just don't even, they don't even get back up.
I mean, it didn't even sound like you had, so it helped me understand. You're 19 years old and you see this man. How old is that man that you meet at 19?
So now I'm Orthodox. So this is a whole different other topic.
Why do you think I'm asking? I see Yentl before me. I want to start singing "If I Were a Rich Man."
No. So the Orthodox community, a lot of times they get set up.
Yeah.
Okay. So that, like I was saying before, like in Europe, why there was so many clusters of all these, a lot of different cancers, because all these Jews used to just marry each other. There was no outside marriage, so that's why so many things are just.
It was not a diverse gene pool. We weren't bringing together a lot of different strains. I got it. Yeah.
So who was this guy?
Yeah, who was it? Get to the, like, how old was he? What was his work?
So he was 21. 21, but he was, so yeah. So no, so all my kids, 3 out of the 4 are married already.
Okay.
And also, I mean, like, also we find a girl through, we still do that matchmaker thing.
You're doing the matchmaker thing still today?
Yeah.
That could be another show. I could sit on a show with that.
My mother tried to matchmake me. I told her, Mom, I don't trust you to buy me underwear. So back to the guy.
Let's go back there.
But you know what? Like, people ask that all the time. Like, like when you call a matchmaker, like your mother knows what you need best. It's like how do you pick a girl? How do you? It's very interesting. Like, for my very loud son, I need a more quiet girl because he needs to dominate everything.
Yeah.
For my quiet son, I need somebody a little bit more to pick him up and help him out through life and guide him a little, because he's so shy. You're saying that you don't want your mothers, to help you buy anything, but the truth is, like, your mother only wants good for you, and your mother, like, knows you better than anyone else. So she kind of knows what your personality needs to balance you out. Two loud people would just end up killing each other.
Yeah.
So, so you
Funny.
gotta trust that mom.
But I thought that the Jews, after watching Fiddler on the Roof, figured out that the arranged marriages are just not. I know, Bambos, you're not there's no way you saw Fiddler on the Roof.
No way.
But it happens to be from the religious community. It's very shocking that it's not as big as the rest of the world, the percentages of divorce.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It's much less. It's much less for some reason. So go figure.
Well, I mean, I can understand that because I've also felt like the first, I would have said, since I never got married until I was the last relationship I had, and even then it was like, just got married because it was crazy not to be. I would say if I had married each one of the relationships I had that was over a year, I would have been divorced 4 times. So it was only the last relationship, Ronnie, who I'm now together with, where I feel like it's a partnership. And as you are describing it, I get the sense that this arranged marriage is far more like we're going to be partners in this. And there's something different, a different energy than you need to satisfy everything that I can't, resolve in myself, which tends to be what relationships are until people get grown up. Yeah.
Right. They make it work. I always tell people, like, when because now I'm remarried, and I took somebody from, from my same background, our parents were friends. I said, the more, when people say, like, yeah, opposites attract, yeah, it might be fun in the beginning, but when one wants to go skiing and the other one wants to stay home and read a book, it just doesn't work. It just ends up conflicting. I feel like if you have the same interests, if you have the same family background, there's no fights like, oh, Christmas, oh, Hanukkah, what do we celebrate? What do we do? The more you have in common, especially in your background, and it's this, and the same way of thinking, I feel like you had the better chances of you getting along, because it's just like you're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Or you have someone like me in a relationship who always says, baby, whatever you want. What are we going to do tomorrow? Baby, whatever you want.
Don't baby me.
Fascinating. Yeah. So is he, does he, because you are very rambunctious. So when you're together with him, will he just say, yes, honey? Does he do a lot of yes, honey, or do you guys argue?
No, my current husband is very, very much on. No, we're both very spunky. We both have the same, but we both have, like, our grandmothers, our mothers are same, like, Ukrainian, Russian, bubble, mamala, sweet, warm, huggy, lovey. It's just like the same upbringing, and so it kind of works.
Yeah.
Like the parents are even, like, from the same towns back, back in Europe. It's a mentality. That you're raised with. You don't realize it, but you take along everything, a lot of things that are passed through, your family.
I found interesting is that my niece, as I mentioned earlier, Dad was Jewish and Mom was Catholic. So both of them died. But my niece, who was raised Catholic, she just felt more at home with the Jewish religion. So then she, interestingly, converted back to Judaism, and she even moved in the direction of becoming an Orthodox Jew.
Wow.
So, and then now she's moving to Israel. But the curious thing is that it's as you mentioned, it's in your blood. There's a certain connection to it. So it's interesting how in her, she connected to that, even though she wasn't even raised Jewish. She was far more something that she could connect with, which she just converted and then, made that her life.
Right.
Yeah, it happens for sure.
Yeah. But but most of the time when I do speak, it's just the message is here. I can tell everybody, please be ahead of the game. Be on top of yourself, be ahead of the game. But also, in my work, I just like to, right now I am like one of the leading healthcare designers in the United States. I travel all over designing hospitals, rehab centers, nursing homes. But I came from, I was divorced with nothing. I didn't even go to college. So having no education and no family, no background, you can still make something of yourself. You can still use your talents and still like people don't. I always tell people, God gives everybody something that they can monetize on. If like when I see these girls, they're great at putting on makeup or they're great at hairdressing, make it into a career. You're given this talent for a reason. You people think that they need that rich grandfather. Oh, I can't go into business, I don't have that rich grandfather. And I say all the time, I see in the neighborhood we have plumbers and electricians living in mansions. They're doing so well. They're making tons of money. You don't have to have that. You don't have to have that money in your family.
We were explaining I was telling Bambos the other day that if he wanted to make a lot of money, he'd become a plumber, because the one thing there's not enough of in Amsterdam is plumbers. But question to you is, when you are 19 and then you've been match made with this man, clearly you did have 4 kids together. Is that right? Or is that, so you have 4 kids together and then at some point it doesn't work, there's just no match.
Right.
When you now are on your own, at that point, I'm assuming that you had no background in design outside of curiosity. You didn't study it, right, or you didn't.
So no. So it's very interesting that I designed my own home. This is how I got into the business. I designed my own home, and then twice a week I actually had a Bible class in my house, some lady teaching here, and so I had all these. It was a different group of girls Mondays and a different group of girls Wednesdays she taught, and I volunteered my house. So, and then the girls used to walk in and they used just like would start taking pictures of my living room and dining room, wandering around my house, taking pictures of my bathroom. I'm like, what? It's like, oh, you're so creative, you're so talented, and I was like, oh, okay, thank you. They're like, why don't you do this for a living? I'm like, no, I'm a stay-at-home mom. Like, I want,
Yeah.
There was no need, And then when I was at rock bottom with nothing, and I was like, what can I do? How can I support my kids? So I came back to this in my head where everyone kept telling me, you should do this professionally. You should do this professionally. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I will. So, and a lot of people they laughed, and I said, I'm opening a design firm. They're like, you're going from a stay-at-home mom with 4 little kids, you're opening a design firm, and you didn't even go to school for it.
Yeah.
Like, no, I know people that went to design school, but as much as they can teach you in as many classes as you could sit through, design is like a flair. It's something inborn. It's either you have it or you don't. You see those people, they're well dressed, they're put together, how they match things that they're wearing, with the scarf, with the handbag, with the this, with the that.
Not me.
Yeah. and it's nobody taught this to them. They have this this flair that's inside of them. So as many classes you could in design, I feel like as many classes or schools you can go to, if it's not within, there's no, you can't be taught. You can't be taught, good taste. It's either you got it or you don't. So,
but so this is a second now. So in some way, I mean, Bambos and I, her story often reminds me of your story as well.
Yeah.
It just because. So Bambos, I'm going to tell Bambos a story because he's not going to talk about it. But Bambos wanted to become a photographer. And he just one day said, I'm now a photographer. And we always make the joke, what's the difference between an amateur and a professional photographer? One calls himself professional. So in some ways it sounds like it's like this moment in time where you just said, I'm going to own this. And that's beautiful.
Right.
That's just beautiful.
I mean, I decided, I spent so many years just crying about the past and just saying all the time how unfair life is. It's, why me? Why me again and again and again? Why me? And I decided to just shut that off and just focus ahead. And I turned onto positivity. So instead, and I don't even, because I used to rehash the past again and again in my mind. Oh, I should have said this to my mother. I should have done that for my father. Over and over. It's as many times as I rewind it in my head, I can't change it and I can't fix it. So what's the point? So I told myself, you know what? Enough about even thinking about the past. I have to just focus ahead on the future. And that's how I turned all this misery, into looking at hey, my life is great. I have 4 beautiful kids. God gave me this talent that I'm able to monetize on, and all my jobs, I never bother at advertising because they all come word of mouth. So it's like they fall from the sky. I'm so thankful. One happy customer gives your name to the next. It's like it's like manna from heaven.
Was there a point though? Was there a point, because you said there were negative voices? So at some point, was it like there were negative voices and then at some point I made a decision, or was it just something that happened over time? Do you remember any moment when you said, this was a moment when I realized I could go down one path or another and I chose this path?
Right. So it's very interesting. At the time when I was getting divorced, the book The Secret came out. And I always do. I do my drum at my own beat. I do a march at my own beat. So instead of everyone's reading the book. Instead of reading the book, I went and she quotes on every couple pages. She quotes all these different people, her sources. So instead of reading her book, I actually went and I looked up these, As a Man Thinketh. It's written in 1903 or 1913.
Like the Napoleon Hill book, one that's always
everything she quotes. I went to look up where she took it from. And all of them were just saying how productive it is to be grateful for what you have, and as grateful as you have, as grateful as you are, more for what as grateful you are for what you have, more comes to you, more goodness comes to you. And I said to myself, and I thought to myself, the same thing.
Can we slow that down? When you say a gem like that, I kind of want to let it seep it into my system. Just repeat that sentence. The more grateful that you are,
the more grateful that you are, you attract more goodness. You attract more. It's great. What I find, you can look at it this way: whatever you put out in the world comes back to you. So I find you put out kindness, you're going to get kindness back. You put out thankfulness, you're going to get a lot of abundance and positive things back. The world is I feel God runs the world in a circle. So and I myself also I contribute all these projects that I have. How do I get all these projects? It's just one little me. How do I get these massive projects? Other people have all these staff working for them, other designers. Me, it's just single, me alone. And I find because I think it's because I'm always helping other designers. And I don't look at them as competition to myself. So I feel like the goodness I'm giving out into the world and helping these, girls just beginning with no confidence. I'm helping them start businesses of their own when they could potentially be, competition for myself. And I'm, instead of hoarding all my information, I'm giving them my contacts and giving them samples and starting them off and giving them phone numbers. Go here for carpet. Go here for this. Go here for that.
Yeah.
And people have asked me what are you doing? You're helping your competition. I'm like, there is no competition. There is no such thing. You know,
Mm.
nobody's going to take away a job that's meant for me. So why not help other people?
Yeah.
So I feel like that what I put out is just comes back to me. You know, I help other people get jobs, and I get more jobs. It doesn't make sense, but that's what really happens.
Yeah,
You know?
it's funny because I think I live by the same. I feel the same as you do in that I can't understand like just from gratitude alone, and then being giving and supporting and loving and just helping others, that and that the joy it brings me, and then it always comes back. It'll come back in ways that are not necessarily directly related to anything I've done, but just by being that way, life gives. And I totally I can connect with that
I
very much
understood
so.
it more when I said to myself, like when I put it into this analogy, like God is like a parent. My you know, God, we say God our Father. So my kids, when they're thankful, you just want to give them more. The ones that you do for them, and
Mm.
they're not
Yeah.
grateful, and they're like, you know, they don't appreciate. You know, you don't want to do anything for them anyway. You know, it's exactly the same. It's exactly
It's
the same as a
so.
parent. You know.
Oh my God, it's so much so.
Yeah.
By the way, I rent a few apartments in the city, and I have a philosophy that I don't rent an apartment to anyone that I wouldn't see as a friend. Like, so
Mhm.
there's people that in one of these apartments, a few people came in and wanted it, and I just said no. Just not because they wouldn't, but I didn't. So now when these people call, I had one of them call last week, and there's issues and they've got problems, but it's so funny. Every time I go there, I feel like I'm helping a friend out, and they feel grateful that I'm supporting them. So I've just enriched my life because I put someone there that I actually care about.
Nice.
And it's weird because people don't necessarily get how what you're saying, how that enriches your life. But if I bring anyone in that feels the entitlement, and then works from that, and then all of a sudden whatever I give them, I feel no joy in it, because now I'm having to fulfill
And
whatever
they're not
they think.
grateful.
There's no gratitude. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
it's really interesting. I've adopted it in so many places in my own life that and no one understands it, because hey, they can be in tomorrow, but you're going to wait a month for somebody that you just like. Yes, I will
Mhm.
wait a month for someone I like.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's nice. That's nice.
yeah,
I like that. I like that.
yeah. It is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just
Mm.
proving the point that no matter how much hardships you have, I went through all those deaths, and I went through a divorce, and I went through, you know, maiming myself just
Yeah.
to survive. But you can still, you know, pick yourself up. You can still pick yourself up. You can still become a success. You know, and so many people, like, they let life bring them down. They don't, you know, get back up. They don't pick themselves up. They get depressed, and you know, there's so much, you know, there's so much out there that you can change or give a chance to, but it's but also and that people let themselves get down from a lot of rejections. Like, so let's say, you know, like and I learned this over time. And when I first started designing, you know, at my first few jobs that I got rejected from, I went to other designers,
Mm.
I would cry, and I would get so, you know, like, it hurts. But then I realized afterwards, like, oh my God, I got just that saved. God saved me
Yeah.
because that was like a real, like, jerk of a contractor who you know, who was so mean and so nasty. I
Yeah.
actually got saved all this stress, and you don't even know, you don't even
Mm.
understand. You know, the rejection is a good thing. There's
Yes.
something better out there for you. You know,
Hallelujah.
and people let
And
it get.
and how many do you reject now? Because I could imagine there's people that want you to work for them and you just say no.
Yeah.
So is there like a percentage you would say,
Yes.
like 30, 40, 50?
Yeah, so there is a very big percentage. So I've now started to I focused, well, when I first started, I did residential and commercial, and I took anything, and I needed to you know, support myself. Now I could say, you know, I have all these people coming to me all the time, so I could say no to all my residential. I say, oh, I have a friend, you know, let me help this girl
Yeah.
out, let me help that girl out, I actually give them numbers. I have a whole, you know, all these
A
people
Rolodex.
that I
Mm.
trained and I helped out, and I refer them over to them, so I rather concentrate on commercial.
I got it.
And I give out all the phone calls that I get for residential. I give other girls' numbers out for.
Funny, I feel like there's some similar.
The same thing with vendors. Let's say if I'm designing, let's say, a hospital, and I need furniture, and or a rehab center. I need each project. There's so many people that call me. Oh, I sell furniture. Oh, I sell this. Oh, I sell that. Could you please help me? Could you please use me? There's so many people like constantly knocking on my door, calling me, and I want to help everybody. So I kind of, instead of, some people, they find a vendor, they like them, and they constantly go, oh, for this, go to this guy, for this, go to this. They get comfortable in the people that they're dealing with, and they just keep using the same 3-4 vendors over and over for different things. And me, I like to spread the wealth. I like to help, different. So one project I'll give to one guy, one project, also like, artwork. Let's say, for example, we need artwork going down I have 10 guys always begging me for work for, let's say, for down a hospital, down a rehab center, all the hallways, they need artwork. So each project I'll give one to this guy, then the next one to the next, the next one to the next. Instead of just constantly just giving it to one person, I try to help many. Instead of
I'd like to transition to some other questions I have.
Sure.
How many wigs do you have?
My real hair is curly, but my husband loves this kind of,
Does he?
Straight look. He loves this. Yeah. So I hardly end up wearing it.
But how many do you have?
I actually have 3. That one curly one that's sitting, it actually has dust on it.
Because you don't wear it enough.
I actually have. Yeah, exactly. It does have a layer. It's not a joke. I'm telling you. It actually does in my closet have a layer of dust on top because it's never used. And then I have 2 of these straight ones that I switch on and off depending. You have to get them washed.
And how often do you have to get them washed?
In the summer more often when it's hot and sweaty outside, but I am truly Orthodox. My elbows are always covered, my knees are always covered. I'm always wearing skirts. My hair is always covered, and I think I still look fabulous.
Why should they exclude one, exclude the other?
Right. No. Because a lot of people they think Orthodox, if you're gonna have to cover your elbows and your knees all the time, you're limited in what you can wear. How great can you you can even covering everything, you can still, it's the way you put yourself together.
But no one would know you were Orthodox unless you told them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
By the way, we have to make an apology not to you, but to one of our listeners. So Bolalong, I feel like I've betrayed Bolalong because he's on the show every single day, and we started a half an hour early, and we didn't tell him. So you came in a half an hour late, or you didn't come, and we started a half an hour early. Bolalong.
Yeah, Bolalong came 26 minutes.
So we are very sorry for not notifying you. I should have been a good boy. But you're welcome to ask any questions if you're still here and you don't feel betrayed.
And I like your profile picture.
I like your profile picture as well, Bola. He's in South Africa, and he actually is always peppering us with questions. So he often he'll be usually a better host than either of us because he thinks about the questions before he says anything. Yes. Thank you, Bolalong.
I apologize to listeners. They'll have to
you have a real job.
To get the full scoop over here. They'll have to go backwards.
One thing that you wrote, which I really liked, and I've discussed this with Bambos quite often in our just supporting business and discussions, is when you started out, you really said, I'm going to deliver whatever I deliver for free. That's what I've read here. And I will allow, it's almost like a drop in the pond. I'll let that drop create the ripple, and then that ripple will define where I go. But I'll deliver great value, and I imagine I would say the only thing I'd ask is if you liked what I did, do me a favor and refer me forward. That's the only thing I'd ever ask anyone. Only if they're happy.
Right. So one of the first things I designed, was a pizza store, kind of like a cafe, kind of pizza, a variety of different things. And of course, when you don't have all that, all that work to show them that you did previously, just pictures of your house. So, they're kind of taking a gamble. But when you say the word free to some people, they're like, "Oh, I'll take it." Okay, it's worth the risk. Free, all right. And first, if you it's a ripple effect. If people come in, everyone that came into the store, they kept going over to the owner like, "Wow, who designed this place?" So it was free advertising. He kept giving out my number. Everyone that walked in, that was like, "This is so cool."
You hope the pizza is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was.
Does that place still exist, by the way?
It does, and it still looks good.
And what's the name of the place, just so I can look it up on Google afterwards?
Okay, it's called J2 in Lakewood, New Jersey.
Lakewood, New Jersey. Okay, nice.
So, but people come, especially in public spaces. I mean, when you have residential homes, and your neighbors are coming in, families coming in, you have much more exposure when you design an office or a restaurant, any public space. You have more visibility.
Sure.
And so I was trying as much as I could in the beginning to get my name out there. I was struggling at that time, like for food,
Yeah.
So, but I had to build up a portfolio. People taking a risk using somebody that was inexperienced. So I really went above and beyond.
I don't know how it is for you, but for me in my life, I will look back to the people who took a risk on me when I was at a very early phase of anything and I'm always grateful for them. Like it could be 20 years ago, but I'll still call them to share with them how grateful I am for what they did to support me. There's a woman who, when I was 16 years old, she was catering and she put me and gave me a recipe and left. I mean, I don't even know if I would trust, thinking about a 16-year-old, you've never cooked before, but here's the recipe. And then she, I couldn't tell the difference between teaspoons and tablespoons. So I screwed it up. But the point was that it was like, I will still call her today because I'm in such gratitude for her taking the risk on me. And I'm wondering, is that something you guys share, or how is it?
So happens to be with this pizza store years later, he actually calls me up. He says, "Oh, we're buying a piece of property. Can you design my house?" Well, first, I don't like doing homes, but because women can drive you crazy. But I actually said, "Oh, of course, I'll do your home, but and I won't even charge you because you took that risk all those years ago." Okay, all those years ago, you gave me my first project, you gave me my first job, and you trusted me. I'm gonna help you, and I designed this whole house free of charge.
Yeah, that's what that's when I do that in my life, those are the most gratifying moments, because it's almost like that's the thank you. That's the, I want nothing from you but for you, because you've given that to me, right? That's, it's really beautiful, those moments.
Yeah. The people that believed in you, you have to go back.
Yeah.
And
I have, there's even people in my life which I don't even like them, but they gave me breaks and I still have to love them for that,
Right. Yeah.
That's what he is for me. He gave me a break when no one actually believed in me. Everyone was telling me get a real job.
Photography?
Yeah, but I didn't pay my bills, and I was pretty much picking up leftovers from the organic market, like on the ground.
Oh, wow.
With a hoodie so no one would see me, and I was really eating basic. And he would be the person I talked to. He would be coaching me, and in a way, because I had a lot of negative dialogue already, and I was trying to push everyone away that was adding to that, he was the voice in my head that was supportive.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know what some good words could do for people. It could really change them around. And when I was rewind back when I was beginning and I was still starting out, And my daughter back then, she said she wanted to be a teacher. She kept saving like her favorite model lessons from her teachers. She kept putting them aside in like a loose leaf that she wants to one day, use on her students. And I was like, and I was struggling for it. I was like, why do you want to be a teacher? So much work, so little money. I was like, I was totally not encouraging to her. Okay. And like it's not all about money. Today, I'm so proud of her. She's, the kids love her. She's this fabulous teacher. She's a success because she's doing what she wants to be doing.
Yeah.
She followed her dreams, and back then I look at myself like, because at that time I was in that predicament, struggling for money. And that's all I could, think about. But if you do what you want to be doing, you're a happy person, and money comes, and that's it's nothing to do with your happiness. If you're following through on your childhood
but it's
wishes.
so hard to trust on that, because just like you were to your daughter, everyone in some degrees wants to protect their children. My dad, he ended up kicking me out of the house and saying I was dead and saying we're not going to talk. We didn't talk for 10 years because he was so scared that I was going to make decisions where I couldn't support my life, which is absurd when you think about it. He doesn't want me to go down a bad path, so he has to basically say you're dead. But I mean, it's weird.
That's how painful it was for him to witness you.
Yeah, that's how painful it was for him to witness me. And it's amazing there's this moment when I don't have a child, so I can't, but like where I feel like there's a surrender when you say, this is not my life to live. And I can't decide and help them, and I can support them when they come to me, but to control it, I think that's that moment when each parent has to like say, oh, it's their life, it's not mine.
Right.
And I think for each person, it's got to be a rough transition sometimes.
Yeah. So with that, I see a lot of parents, they're lawyers or doctors, and they push their kids to be lawyers and doctors too, even though that's not really like in their kids' gut. They just push that direction, and then years later they're miserable. That's not really their calling. That's not really what they wanted to do. Yeah. And I see that mistake. Also like with when I help people start businesses, they're a lot of times their spouses are not encouraging. Yeah. To go and drop a job and follow up on an old dream that you have is very scary. It's a big risk to take, and a lot of spouses are like, no, stay in this job. Even how miserable they are, they happy with the steady paycheck.
Yeah.
They like routine. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't, So
and the one thing I think is interesting about a spouse is that a spouse also sees the everything in that person, which the world doesn't see. So if I look at you as a spouse, I project onto you as, oh, I know that you're insecure. I know that you haven't done this before. I know. So basically, they take all of the things that they've projected onto them and say, you can't do this. But what's weird is if that person just says, I can do it, then all of a sudden they can do it. I mean, that's the absurdity of it. Right. But that voice, as you say, like we're often say when you're doing your own personal development, you often have to find new groups of friends, because the old groups of friends are reaffirming all those negative ideas a lot of times that you can't do it, because they haven't done it, and they need to they have to have an excuse why they haven't. If you do it and they don't, then all of a sudden they feel bad in a way, because they're like, hold on, I could have done it as well. So there is a degree of that as well. So yeah, I totally hear you.
And because I do, my focus is healthcare design. And I see all these old miserable people. Okay. So I tell people, when I hear just somebody like, there's this young guy over here that in my neighborhood, he was working years for an eyeglass store, and his dream was to open up one on his own. But he's like, it's just so convenient, not to have the stress of your own place. I'm like, I say, I look at all these old people I see all the time. I go to design a nursing home. Go look at they're all miserable. They're all because they didn't follow through with their dreams. They just stayed in a safe place. They were scared to take a risk, and look at them now. And I keep telling you, you don't want to be like these people I see. You know, you want to be happy at the end of your life, that you fulfilled, you know, all your desires, your dreams, your passions, you followed your passion. And you know, it's just, it's very sad to see.
Yeah.
And that's what makes me always come out and say, go for it, do it, you know, take the risks, you know, it's worth the struggle, you know, don't give up. Because this is what I see happens to you afterwards. You know, I end up seeing that I design hospices. Well, these people are not ending their lives, you know, with a smile, like I did it all, you know, I did my bucket list. This is not how it ends. It doesn't end well. And this is most of the people that I'm seeing. And I go all across the country here in the United States. So, and you know, you know, make something for yourself. Follow that, you know, that itch. It's burning inside you to do something. Just, you know, go for it.
You know, it's interesting because you know, they always, you know, those two drivers, right? The love and fear. You know, what is the thing that's holding you back or compelling you to do something? And I notice, especially when I spend time in the U.S., it is so inundated with fear. From media downwards, it's just the system is just so fear-based that it, in some interesting way, there's this kind of strange paradox, because in the U.S. it's a land of plenty. Dream it and you can do it. Like there's that, like this very, very go west, young man, manifest destiny. And then on this other side, you've got this intense, be scared, you know, no one's there to protect you. So it's almost like there's a very, very strong polarity there that I've experienced.
So it's the
people
brave
do nothing.
ones.
Yeah. So people do nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the brave ones that actually make it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the people
but then they'll use, but then there's the guy who's homeless, who you then see, and then that one to say, see, that's what can happen to you. Like that's the narrative that then gets them fear-based again. Like, oh my God, at least I have a job, at least I have health care, at least, and so it's really it's interesting.
And you die miserably.
Yeah. You know, how would you rather live feeling as if you're just surviving, or would you rather live? And I've often said that to my wife, because we're a little bit different there. I'm more living on the edge of, you know, I'll often say, if I die tomorrow, it's great. And then she'll be like, no, it isn't, because then I'm still here. She says, you're so selfish. But I mean, and my point being that, like, there's nothing I'm not doing that I'm not loving. And
that's how we all should be.
And that's what I would love.
Yeah.
She puts time. She says, okay, I have to do things I don't like so that at some point I can retire. Right. That's the thing people do.
Yeah.
And then the retirement age always gets older, right? Because we don't have enough money in the healthcare or in the social security system. So I was like, now it's 55, but in another year it's 57. Now it's 60.
Yeah.
So you have to work.
I actually have a neighbor, a male. He's a nurse, and he puts in so many hours. He hardly sees his 3 kids. He puts in crazy hours, all for retirement. That's all he ever thinks about is retirement. Okay. Now, his father died of a heart attack when he was in his 30s. I'm like, what makes you think that you're even going to live to your retirement also?
Yeah.
Who says you're not seeing your kids now? You're overworking for retirement that may never even come. You know, you don't know what's going to happen. His father had a heart attack from one day to the next. What makes you think that you have to live for today?
Yeah.
It's very sad. He's giving up for this, maybe that might happen.
Yeah, that thing that may or may not happen. But and then you're so old you can't even do the things you would have liked to have done, because now you have to do cruise ships.
Yeah.
Places where you can stay sedentary for long periods of time. Yeah.
I also want to add, though, everyone has their journey. And if someone needs to go through that to get an understanding before they die, then that's what they need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
So in a way, sometimes I think it's very easy to look on the outside and say, hey, you need to do this or live like this. But sometimes what's valuable for us to live our dream and passion and innate calling, for someone else might be, hey, my family is the most important thing, and I'll do it, and even if I die at 30.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Drop
that bomb in there, Bambos. Nice.
Drop the mic, Andy Shayla.
Bang. Yeah, it's really beautiful. So what I love about you is, first of all, I have no idea what this show was about because we went in so many different directions.
We put this up.
We just put it up just because we thought that would be exciting. But what I just have to share, just really appreciate you, is that it's almost like you're like an energy field, and wherever you go, you're going to vibrate in a frequency that's going to create whatever is there to be created. It's almost like I don't even.
I was born to thrive.
Yeah, I was born to thrive, and
not just survive.
Yes, and that's the
But it wasn't
thing.
always that way. I really changed my way of thinking. And you know what? So many times, so many things go wrong in life, and so many curveballs, that unexpected curveballs come, and it's just. I'm not always this jolly and happy every single day, but I have to correct myself. It's the thing that pulling yourself back, turning, course. So many times, like, something will remind me of, of something in the past, or I did wrong, or I want to change, or I should have changed. And again, I have to it's a constant battle of pulling yourself back in the right direction. It's not always, so cheery-deery for me or for anybody. It's the thing, knowing to catch yourself when you fall the other direction, catch yourself back and go back on that, positivity train track.
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is tough. Like I have to say, I've been going through a depression for the last 2 weeks. And
okay, call me after the show.
No, and it kind of forced me to slow down, because in the past I would just plow through, and it's been like slowing down. And if I'm going to focus on working, but if at the moment I see fear kicking in, I'll stop working. Like I've been meditating now 100 minutes a day, just to go inside and feel what needs to be felt. Because I also realized I can earn and I can do, but it's not going to make me happy. It's like there's always something to hold on to. So I just see every, what we would call a curveball, and I'm in the curveball moment right now, is an opportunity to kind of self-discover. So it's always a slowing down. And I've never really slowed down in my life. This is actually the last 2 weeks, just dedicating to meditating and feeling, has been a complete contrast of what I would normally do.
You're going to become a success if you change, if you continue in the right direction. You don't let yourself get pulled down, and you go look towards the future. You look ahead, and you will, succeed. If you it's just not giving up. You have that burning desire of accomplishing something, becoming a photographer, whatever it is. It's just not as many rejections or curveballs or unexpected things happening in life. The key is picking yourself up and marching forward, not backwards, and good things will come. Yeah.
Thank you, Naomi. Thank you for rearranging your schedule. You have an old folks home to design right after this call,
actually,
I believe.
now a children's hospital.
Oh, really?
Now it's a children's hospital. I made the mistake because I didn't pay attention. I saw at 9 a.m. I didn't realize it was Pacific Standard Time, and I am on Eastern Standard Time, and I changed my whole day to make this happen for you, but it's definitely it was my mistake. But I'm happy that I did it. I'm happy I got to meet you guys.
Yes,
thank you.
And I'm happy doing what you want to be doing.
Yeah,
and I wish you luck in your career in photography.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. We send you a lot of love, and yes, I really am grateful that you took the hour with us.
Me too.
In the middle of all the crazy.
Me too.
Send you a hug. Yeah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye. See, Bambos, that's all you have to do. Just emit that level of energy the rest of your life. We're going to do this.
You're a dick.
No. Am I? She was full of energy. I love this. You can feel what that does when you're with it.
Yeah.
Like if you were gonna, if I was just realizing, like if I had a project and I'm with someone that has that kind of charisma and that energy, I'm like, yeah, that's someone that I want to be around. That's someone that I want to be participating with, and that energy field is going to add to my energy field. And I just felt like, yeah, interesting how you sense that. Yeah.
So anyone watching this show will get an energy boost.
Yeah. And we went in so many different directions that it was 4 shows packed in one on this one. So I feel like the words were compressed as well. It's almost like I feel like there were more words per minute on this show than any other show we've done. Cool. So do you know what tomorrow's show is?
The guy, what did he do?
Oh, really? It's a guy that we did something?
No, you mentioned him earlier.
Really? Okay. Was it the 23andMe show? Is that who we have tomorrow? I don't exactly know, but
I don't have my phone.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, whatever we're gonna do,
we're gonna do it here. It's always a wonderful and it's always a chaos. That we are always certain of.
It's gonna be a chaos, a wonderful.
A chaos, a wonderful. Next time. Bye-bye.